It's really a complex problem. I followed the Hope 6 thing somewhat. When they were moving people out of Arthur Capers, I followed that somewhat, read about it, and so forth. You know, and I've looked a little bit at the current federal initiative, which is choice neighborhoods or promised neighborhoods, and also followed a little bit the new communities initiative at the district level. And I think what's hard to get over is a sense of, I don't know if the word grievance is correct, is the right word, but the sense, I mean, the impression I get from afar, from reading about it, and is yeah, just a sense of people feeling hurt, that they feel like they're being relocated. And especially if it were to happen in this neighborhood, I'm sure that people would have the sense we're being moved out because of the gentrification and the new neighbors don't want us here. I mean, the idea is, I think the idea of mixed income housing is a good one. I think it, you know, in principle, I think warehousing a lot of poor people together is not, it's not like I'm defending that, but there's got to be a better way to go about making this kind of change. I see mixed income housing as being really important. For instance, the family that the kid that I tutor, her family, her brothers and sister were all involved in the tutoring house. And you see what a difference it makes when people who have middle-class professional backgrounds, that sense of entitlement, that sense of comfort dealing with the system, are working with kids whose family may not have that kind of experience, and whose experience of, you know, their parents' experience of school may be like very negative and very much like, just do what they tell you, don't ask questions. And you can see the impact that it has when kids like that can work with mentors. You can say, well, maybe you should ask questions, and maybe I will help you with asking these questions. And so it's, I think mixed income, ideally a mixed income community is really important because the people who are well-to-do get benefits from not just talking to people like themselves, from living in a diverse community. My daughter grew up in this neighborhood, so she wasn't always happy about growing up in this neighborhood, but she had a lot of benefits from it, which I think she sees now. And kids from poor families, I think, can benefit as well, because, you know, there are, I mean, look at the changes that have happened here. The schools are getting better, right? There's more jobs here. Harris Teeter moved in. There was the construction of Jenkins Row, and I was told that people at Hopkins got jobs helping to build Jenkins Row and so forth. So there's a lot of advantages. But my sense with Hope 6 was people were told they were going to be able to move back, and then it took a long, long time, and the community dispersed, and that not that many people did get a chance to move back into the mixed income communities. And what I've seen in the Washington Post recently about the new communities initiative is that apparently those initiatives have really struggled. And there are people who, you know, who were promised that they would be able to return, who have been gone several years and may not have any hope of moving back. I don't know the specifics about it. My understanding is that the Promise/Choice Neighborhood Initiative is supposed to deal with some of those issues, but I don't know how well it's doing. But clearly, you need to do more than just say to people, oh yeah, we're going to move your whole community out. You know, this place that you've lived in your whole lives, you may not love it, you may feel it's a dangerous place to live, but it's still where your friends and your family are. And we're going to move you out, and then someday we might bring you back, but we don't know. And, you know, that's just not right. You know, there's got to be another way, and that's, I promised myself I was going to do research into this and try to find out what alternatives people have been working on, and I haven't gotten around to doing that, but I just feel like we need to find a different way of dealing with this problem, because I know good people from all kinds of backgrounds in this neighborhood, and everyone deserves a chance to live here and get the best that they can get out of this neighborhood. And I feel like we're not doing enough to make sure that happens. So
you said something earlier about you felt like that the neighborhood was splitting, that there were the newer white residents, and that they were kind of drawing lines. Mm-hmm. Can you describe a little bit? I know you gave me some specific incidences of the older residents or the young people doing bad things that you were thinking. But do you have any more, like, do you have any evidence that that's actually taking place, or is it just a sense? Or
yeah, there were a couple summers where there was a lot of discussion on the listserv about incidents like that, but mm-hmm. I have not noticed that in recent years. Mm-hmm. And so I can't really, mm-hmm. I don't see that happening right now. Uh-huh. Well, I did have this one run-in with this kid, which I'll tell you about. Uh-huh. I told Sahar and Shamik about it. I was on my way to the metro. It was in the winter, and it was during this period, and there were a bunch of boys on the corner of 13th and Potomac throwing snowballs at people. And so two of them started following me as I was walking along, and one of them I recognized from the tutoring house. And I said, "Oh, is that Marcel?" And he said, No, it's not Marcel. It's not." And so, but I'm sure it was Marcel. And then another kid. And so sometimes I try to throw people off by asking them questions, but this didn't go so well. Because, I started asking this other boy, I didn't recognize what his name was, and he wouldn't tell me, and then I started saying, well, that's kind of chicken shit to not tell me your name, which was, I think, a mistake. I think I was like going in a direction that was really not useful there. And I'm walking to the metro, and then he stops following me, and I start walking the metro. The kid pushed me down from behind, right? And that really scared me, because I was thinking, I wasn't even looking at him, and he felt he could just push me like that, and it's like, what if he'd had a knife or something like that? And it really, really scared me, and that as he ran down the street, I yelled, "You're a coward!" Okay, so I got my thing. But here's the thing. I was heading to the metro because I was going to go to Ellington High School to see the Literary Media Cafe, where my daughter was a student at the time, and so I was going to see all these talented kids who are mostly African American do their poetry and give their presentations. And I volunteer at Jan's Tutoring House, and I know all these kids who go to Jan's Tutoring House. And so what was really helpful for me was the incident with kids scared me, but it also made me realize, like, I could see him as an individual because I had all these other individuals in my life. And so, I didn't walk away from that seeing every kid as a potential threat. And the other thing that was interesting, because I'm involved with Jan's Tutoring House, I saw a young man who I believed to be Marcel. I called the director of the tutoring house, and I said, "I think I saw Marcel. He was with this kid." So she starts calling around. She calls Marcel's mom and says, "I want you to know who he's hanging out with." And also she gets back to me and she says, "Well, first, we think it's this kid, Carlos P." That's what the family said. "We think it's Carlos P." So to me, that was another example of being engaged in this community that made the difference, as opposed to it being some nameless black kid who's a representative of all the nameless black kids. It was just this individual, probably Carlos P., we think. And the tutoring house director was yelling at his friend's mom, right? So I was getting a little restorative justice there, hoping somebody was probably yelling at somebody. And that was from being connected to the neighborhood. And that's why more people need to be doing that. Now, here's a really scary story. is last year, Tywayne Thompson was murdered for his scooter. And it was, one of the murderers was Carlos P. Parks. So it's possible